Target acquired, awaiting confirmation. This is Story Arcs. I'm Art, and this is about the time that I almost got taken out by the U.S. Air Force. So this goes back to my time in the U.S. Air Force in the 90s, and I had just gotten to my station base in Las Vegas. It's called Nellis Air Force Base. And I was working in the hospital, so the first few weeks that I was there, I didn't really get like a proper orientation of people showing you around, things like that, because the guy that they assigned to me to do that was like this dude who wasn't on his job, right? So he should have been showing me all the things I needed to know, but he wasn't really doing that. So what that ended up meaning was I was kind of figuring things out for myself as I went along, and it was very different from the other bases I had been at, because the other bases I had been at were like training bases. So they told you where to be, when to be there, everything you need to do. When you get to your actual station base, it's a little bit looser, and there's certain rules that you need to know. One of the major rules that you need to know is you never go out to the flight line without authorization, right? So now the flight line is where they keep all the planes, and they keep planes like the F-16, which is like, a $25 million aircraft. And there's like dozens of them out there. So they don't want you anywhere near those planes if you don't need to be out there by them planes, right? And those planes are guarded by snipers and soldiers on the ground and dudes in vehicles with M16s and all this kind of stuff, right? Like serious firepower protecting those planes. So my girlfriend comes to see me, and I'm like, hey, come on, I'm going to show you to the planes. Let's go take a look at some planes. Let's go take some pictures, this, that, and the other thing. And she's like, okay, let's go. I'd like to see that. So I go out to where the planes is at, and she's like, oh, can you take some pictures so I can show them to my dad and this and the other thing? And the planes are like, from where you can park your car to where the planes actually are, it's probably like a good 200 yards away. So it was pretty far, and I wanted to try and get a shot where they wouldn't look so small in the camera, right? And so I go out, I get out of the vehicle, and I go out to the flight line, and I notice that on the ground, there's all these different colored lines, right? So there's like 5 or 6 different colored lines, right? There's like a white, there's a blue, there's red, yellow, all this kind of stuff. And I just start walking past these lines like it's no big deal, right? I'm just walking past these lines completely unbeknownst to me that each one of those lines is a different level of authorization that you are allowed, right? So depending on what your job is and what level of clearance you have on the base, you can walk up to that line, right? So here I am, Mr. Tourist and stuff. I'm walking past all these lines, no authorization whatsoever, and not understanding the consequences that this could bring me. So I walk past like the last line, and I keep walking out towards these planes. And now, when I'm thinking about this years later, like this was the dumbest thing ever, right? Common sense would tell you, don't do this. But anyway, there I was, 19 years old, walking out past all these lines, and all of a sudden, from my right and to my left, I could see these military vehicles with their lights on, right? And they're coming at me fast, right? And so they're coming at me, and all of a sudden, one of them gets to me first. It was like this military Jeep, and this chick pops out, right? She pops out with her gun, and she's pointing her gun at me like, don't you move! Don't you move! And I'm like, yo, chill, like, what's happening right now? And she's like, get on the ground. And I'm like, all right. I get down on my knees, I'm like, yo, chill, got my hands up on my knees. She was like, what are you doing here? And I was like, I just wanted to take a picture. I was just trying to take a picture. My girlfriend's in the car. She came to visit. I just wanted to take a picture of the planes, She was like, where are you from? And I'm like, I'm over here with the Nellis Air Force Base Hospital. And she's like, let me see some ID. So I go to reach and show her my ID. She walks up to me. She takes my ID. She's like, don't move. And she gets on the radio. She was like, you good? And he's like, yeah, we good, All right. So at that point, I realized like there's snipers waiting to kill me from all around the base, Right. She's looking at my ID. She's like, all right, Airman, didn't you see the lines? And I'm like, what lines? And she's like, those lines right there. And I was like, well, yeah, I saw the lines, but I don't know what those lines mean. And she was like, each one of those lines tells you you're not supposed to cross to the next one if you don't have authorization. Do you have authorization? I'm like, I ain't got no authorization. I don't know nothing about this. And she's like, all right, well, there's snipers all over. You see all those towers all the way over there? All the way in that distance. You see that over there? And I'm like, yeah. She's like, there's a sniper there. He's pointing a gun at your head. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, gulp. And then she's like, all right, I need to talk to your supervisor. Who's your supervisor? I was like, I don't know. I haven't even met my supervisor yet. I'm like giving him the name of what I think the supervisor's name was or whatever. She's like, listen, man, I don't know how it is that you out here. Nobody gave you orientation. I was like, the guy that's supposed to be giving me orientation, he hasn't given it to me. Haven't been able to catch up with old boy. I was just out here giving my girlfriend a tour of the base. She's like, yeah, don't ever do that again. You can't do that. I'm going to let you go. I should arrest you, but I'm going to let you go. Get back in your car. Don't ever come out to the flight line again without authorization. if I hadn't been here to stop you and you had kept walking to those planes before I could reach you, they would have shot you, just so you know. And I was like, all right, well, thanks, She's pointing this gun at me and I'm like, thanks. And she's like, yeah, just get out of here. Don't ever do that again. And so I go back to the car. My girlfriend is freaking out. She's like, what happened? I was like, yeah, I just almost got killed for some pictures. And she's like, all right, well, we were all freaking out and stuff. And we get out of there later on in the week, when I go and I report for duty, they're like, so I heard you crossed all the lines, huh? And I was like, nobody told me anything about these lines. And my sergeant at the time is looking at me like, what an idiot. So the moral of the story is, don't cross lines you ain't supposed to.